let me say intermediate to now almost, I'm saying almost advanced level. So otherwise, thank you very much. Here from Kenya, we are very grateful. I have started speculating your post, the brochure you sent it to us, and I'm sure a good number of people will be able to join your next class. Maybe the one for, because the first step before going for the advanced, I believe they need to start from the intermediate, like the one you took us through. So before I conclude, I wanted to ask a question on you talked about the one for advanced. You said 4 weeks. Is it 4 weeks continuous, or it will just be like this one, where maybe we do it after every, maybe in a week, twice in a week, or it will run from Monday to Friday, same the following week, Monday to Friday? I don't know. Maybe you'll clarify on that, so that we get to know how we're going to prepare ourselves on that. Otherwise, we are very, very, very grateful on your teachings. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Kibet from Kenya. I really appreciate your comments. So concerning the advanced class, that advanced class is going to run for 4 weeks, and it's going to be weekend classes like this, Friday and Saturday. So in that advanced class, we are looking at 8 models, 8 statistical models. 2 of them is a statistical model, and then 6 of them, they are machine learning models. So it's going to be Friday and Saturday, and each day we're going to be looking at each model. Then I'm going to be laying the foundation or everything that you know about that model before we now move to building that model with data sets and then testing that model with the data set. So it's going to be Friday and Saturday like this. So, and then the first one, we're going to be starting with the linear model, and then under that linear model, we're talking about the simple linear and then the multiple linear model in statistics. So those models that are not linear, that is, they don't have the characteristics of that can be called that they are non-linear. So they are linear model, the relationship between the outcome and then the predictor variable, they are just straight. They are straight line. You can use straight line to join them together. So we call them linear models. So it can be simple, it can be multiple. So other ones that we are still going to be looking at is what we call when you have a non-linear model. When you have a non-linear model, how do you capture a non-linear model? So we're still going to be looking at the non-linear model. If you have the polynomial model, if you have the quadratic model, if you have the inverse model, and some other advanced statistical model like that. So we're still going to be looking at that one too. And also then we move to the what we call the base model in machine learning. Remember that we're now in the era of artificial intelligence, and then whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence has come to stay. So we're now moving to the, we're going to be checking the AI, and then under the AI, artificial intelligence, it has several departments. Let me just put it like that, several departments. So one of the departments that they normally use in data science is what we call the machine learning, ability of you to train a machine to mimic human behavior, to think like human, to behave like human, based on the instruction, based on the several algorithms. The flow algorithm is just a step-by-step that you give to a system or a computer that follow this. When you do this, follow this. When you finish this, follow this. When you finish it, that's what we call the algorithm. So ability for you to develop a model to mimic and then to learn different patterns of data over time. So let's say, for instance, now you've trained a particular model with the pattern of your sales over time. So that model will have mastered the pattern of that sale. So by the time you give him just small sales, predicts this based on this, it's going to, at least with a reasonable extent, is going to predict that. So, and under the base machine learning techniques, we're going to be talking about the training and then the testing. So, and then there are a lot of metrics that we normally use. Metrics simply means that those measurements that we put in place to check whether your model is performing very well or is performing below. And then there is what we call the overfitting and then the underfitting. When your model is too powerful, that is, when your model is too powerful, it performs well on the training data set, but when you are testing it, it performs poorly. then we call it overfitting. We also have underfitting, and then we have some other ones like that. So under the machine learning, which is going to be the base model, we are going to be looking at the base model. We have the supervised machine learning, we have unsupervised machine learning, and then we have the mix of them. And then the mix of them is what we call the semi-supervised. So the mixture between the supervised and then the unsupervised learning. So, but as far as the advanced class is concerned, which is for the data science part, we're going to be looking at supervised machine learning, and then under that supervised machine learning, we're going to be starting with the basic one, which is the logistic regression. Logistic regression acts as a machine learning module. It also acts as a normal statistical module. So we're going to be looking at the logistic regression, and then followed by what we call the Naive-Bayes theorem. So on that, everything started from the Bayes theorem. So we're going to be looking at the Naive-Bayes, and then before that, under the supervised machine learning, we have two types. It's either you are classifying or you are predicting. So it's that we are classifying or we are predicting. So if you are classifying, there are models that we normally build for classification. If you are predicting, there are models that we normally use for prediction. So those are the models that we're going to be looking at: logistic regression, Naive-Bayes, support vector machine, gradient boosting, decision tree, random forest. Those are the base model that if you have the understanding of that base model, you can build on that. So they started all this robotic that you are seeing, the robotic, the natural language translation, that when you go to your ChatGPT, you just type it in English, you ask them to convert it for you to what's it called, to French or to German or to Spanish. That's what we call the natural language translation. So they all build everything on the knowledge of the base model. So if you don't have the adequate knowledge of the base model, you may find it difficult to develop those robust models. That is the AI and some other things like that that we are using. So they are under what we call the reinforcement learning. They are under what we call a reinforcement learning. But everything is still brought down to what? To your base model, which is very, very important. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at in that class. And then under the unsupervised just based on the cluster, is based on the cluster. Let's say, for instance, now, when you go to something like Amazon and you want to buy a particular book, let's say you want to buy a romantic book, and you click on it, then you will just see that there will be another pop-up that those people that buy this book also bought this. How did the algorithm understood that this particular book that you want to buy, you can also buy this particular book? It means that they've developed a model that do what we call a cluster. Cluster simply means that it's grouping something that are common. Let's say, for instance, now the cluster of the age of the elders, that is those people that are age 60 and above, they will bring them to one place. So anybody talking about picking anything from that age, algorithm will suggest other people that is in those age category. So we normally call that one unsupervised. And then the meaning of supervised or unsupervised simply means that if you are talking about supervised, it means that you are setting rules. That is, if you give me X, I'm going to predict Y. If you give me J, I'm going to predict X. That is from the word supervision. That is, you must be there. You are the one that trained those models. So you are the one that is supervising it, whether it is correct or not. But in the case of unsupervised, you don't need to be there at all. It will be the one based on the category that you've given him. Anybody that you see wearing red clothes suggests that you should buy a red shoe of this type. Anybody that you are seeing picking a black shirt suggests that that person should also buy a black shoe. So you don't even need to be there at all. So anybody going to that line, automatically the algorithm is going to suggest, oh, buy this, buy this. Maybe you've not noticed it. If you are searching a word in Google, Google can suggest another word that are similar that people are searching to replace that particular one that you are looking for. Everything is working under what we call unsupervised learning. So the other one is what we call the semi-supervised, when we're going to be talking about they are going to be talking about the reinforcement model, the chat box, the robots, all those robots that they are building, they are called the reinforcement learning. So AI generally has many aspects, but the one that we normally use as a data scientist or as a data scientist is what we call the machine learning. And then machine learning, we have supervised, unsupervised, and then we have the semi-supervised, which is the mix of them. And let me say this expressly, that for you to be a good data scientist using all this machine learning that I'm talking about, you must have at least a good background. If not statistician, must have a good background of statistics. Because remember, I told us in this class that every models that we build, whether statistical model or mathematical model, they are built on assumption. They are built on what? On assumption. So you have to understand the basis of the model of this, the basis of the statistics in building all this model. And then along the line, you will see that all this model, they were also built on statistical model. That is, they make use of the assumption of statistics. And then the limitation of all those statistical model that make them to start developing the AI model and some other model is that there are a lot of patterns that the normal statistical model cannot capture. So we need more robust model that can capture those patterns. That was what battered the issue of machine learning, the issue of artificial intelligence, and some other mathematical and statistical model that we normally use. So in that advanced class, it's just going to be a base module, which is the supervised machine learning. So for those people that are just joining us, tonight's class is just going to be like 30 or 45 minutes. There's no slide for tonight. We just go back to the same data that we used yesterday and then perform some statistical analysis on them, regression, t-tests, and some other tests like that. So, but before we go to that, so I was asking people that they should, based on what they've learned so far, what they can say about the class, what did they learn so far, and then what is the suggestion for our subsequent training, because the cohort 4 is coming up February 2026, so that we can gather those opinions together, and then we'll be able to integrate it into the coming cohort. And then my friend from the Kenya, Mr. Kibet, he made a brilliant suggestion that he has learned so many things from this training, and then he was asking that how the advanced class is going to be, and then is it going to be by weekend and or during the day like this, or throughout the weekend? So, and then we'll have answered that. So if you have any suggestion, what you've learned so far in this class, and then what do you think that we can do to make this class better, the floor is open. You can raise up your hand, and then I'm going to call you, and then you give your suggestion or question, and I'm going to answer that. We have just 30 to 45 minutes to quickly run through our code and do the explanation. So floor is open now. So any suggestion again? Thank you, Mr. Kibet, for that brilliant suggestion and the contribution. So any other suggestion, please? I don't want to be calling names, please. What about our friend from Ghana? Are they on call tonight? Suggestion from anyone? Contribution? Mr. Adebayo Ismail, over to you, please. What have you learned so far in this class? And then what other thing do you think we should do to improve the
Thank you very much for such opportunity, sir. I think so far we've been able to bridge several gaps over the course of about 7 weeks now. We've been able to blend theories with practice, because I could see that this Cohort 3 class is really a practical guide that bridge the gaps between the theoretical aspect of several aspects of the public health studies like EMA 727, that is pure statistics, and some research approaches, research methodology, and the likes. And coming to appreciate some of these statistical approaches in real practice, I think I'm very grateful for that. Another important aspect of this class that makes me to be very impressed is that we've been able to align the main areas we will be in need of in all our research careers and pursuits. For example, or the application of some of those statistical packages in real life research, not just theoretical research or meditating research. So for that reason, I think I've really learned a lot in that aspect, ranging from our Excel class, the SPSS class, the R class, and finally the Python class. It's really very impressive. Thank you very much for that. And I think the only suggestion I could make as far as the class is concerned is for whoever being a part of this cohort 3, it is very advisable if there is capacity that we proceed on to the next advanced class so that we can appreciate it better when we come to that advanced approach so that we're able to say from top to bottom of what statistical packages and approaches are. And I believe this will enhance our research understanding, our research decision making, and from so doing, we're able to be among the strongest decision makers with whatever data we have at hand. Because currently now the world is going to data for actions, and for whoever will be very renowned in that field, one need to be statistically packaged and practically renowned. So, and I believe this is what this court has been able to offer us. But to appreciate it more and better, I will advise all of us that participating so far in this court to move to the advanced class so that we're able to see the nook and cranny of what statistical packages, the applications, the machine learnings, they are all about. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Adeba Ismail, for that brilliant contribution. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Madam Omawumi Adebayo, go
Alright. Good evening, sir. Well, I must say I really learned a lot in this program because it's made me have like a first-hand experience. I've always been working on Excel, but to input formula to do some things I've not been able to do. Hello, can you hear me, sir? Hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can
We
you?
can
Hello,
hear
good
you have
evening,
the
you.
floor.
everyone.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, sorry. All right, thank you. So, and for the SPSS, I've always been in SPSS, but I was able to like use the app first time during the course of this program. Even though my laptop has been faulty, like I've not been able to practice R, Python, and the remaining things, but I was able to follow through and understand. And I pray that I hope to repair it very soon and work on the rest. But I'm really grateful. Like I never knew I could, because data science or data analysis used to look like something very big, very complex to me. I never knew it is something I could also try, even though I know I'm learning. But at least just to even have an idea of what it is. And I'm so grateful for the class because it's very explanatory, it's very detailed, and it explains in simple terms so that even we that we didn't have a background in it could comprehend. And it's actually very okay, I must confess. It's very okay. It's like I got value for my money actually. I got value for my money. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much for the contribution and then the feedback. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Mr. Adebayo, you are still raising up your hand.
Yes, sir. I think I want to stress a point further as regards what
Okay.
I'm saying, sir.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. During the course of our cohort for about 7 weeks ago now, I've been on several field visitations as an environmental health officer.
Okay.
And upon that, I could tell you sincerely what you've exposed to us in this cohort is really very relevant. A very recent one I would like to use as a case scenario. I was on visitation and inspection to a particular industry that involves in the production of feeds for fishes and for poultries. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm
Thank
listening.
you. So during that visitation, we were exposed to their industrial activities, their operations, and how they maneuver their ways to produce different kinds of feeds, like the aqua feed for the fishes and the pellets for poultry. So in a nutshell, all the foods that the poultry keepers like kitchen chicken and the likes, they are eating. So that industry is dealing with that. How are they going into the productions? Who are their operation managers? How are they maneuvers? Everything is based on what? On statistics. From the intake of the raw material they are taking into the factories. They use statistical models to calculate the numbers based on the available demand, to calculate the number of raw material they are taking from the what? From the sources, like those that they take soya beans, they take maize corn, and some other raw materials like that. But what I appreciate most is that in their operation room, they use several statistical codes to code for, they usually store grains in silos.
Yes.
So for that, they have about 21 silos, and they use computer application statistical packages to control which grain should go into a particular silo. That's number one. Number two, they use several mathematical and statistical models to calculate the amount of the amount in kilogram of a particular raw material like soya beans, the guinea corns, that will be sent to the premixing machine to give a desired product or output. And the most paramount of it all is now that they prevent different form of ergonomic hazards and several other physical hazards that, as an environmental officer, is very interested in looking at, in improving the welfare of the workers in that particular environment. After they produce everything in that factory, human effort is needed to carry one load from one point to another. Are you with me, sir?
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
But they've organized this system using statistical package, using AI and robot, to ensure that all the pallets they use to arrange some of these finished products, they arrange it in such a way that everything is organized using the principles of statistical matrices. Are you with me, sir? That is arranged in
Yes.
rows and columns. And this particular robot that is coordinating everything is now, instead of using human effort that will overstressing them and predicting economic hazard, this AI will now be able to arrange the finished product according to rows and columns using the principles of what? Of matrices in relation to statistics. And I was like, wow, this is what our statistics teacher has been exposing us to. So it's really a serious encounter when I got to that facility. Very interesting. And the man even told us that all these things is computerized. It is statistically packaged and well managed with machine learning and AI. And that should tell us that the future of AI and machine learning, in fact, we can't estimate it. It's growing very wide and fast. Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I'm happy to hear that at least we're able to see it in the real life scenario, how we can implement everything that we're learning here. Let me say this expressly, that it is the ability to implement all these things that we are learning that brings what we call the innovation, that brings what we call the advance in research, and that brings a solution to some problems. So I'm happy to hear that. So let me also hear from others. Our class tonight is just 30 to 35 minutes. We just run our code. We are still using the same data of yesterday just to perform some little analysis, and then we round it up by that time. So any other contribution, suggestion for our the subsequent cohort class, and then what have you learned so far in this class? So any other person, please? Any other person? Or what do you think we can still add to this for the subsequent quote?
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening. Thank you. I cannot agree less with all the speakers tonight. I think we've all agreed that this past week, 7 weeks, has been very impactful. It's been a lot of learning, and then I can also see that the 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 knowledge that we have gained, or I have gained personally, is far, far more than the cost that we have put into this. And I must commend the tutor that you've been very, in fact, a good teacher. You've done very well. You've been able to use different teaching methods to bring together a lot of people who are advanced and people who are still struggling. And I must also commend you for your patience. Most times people will ask you to go back and you have to repeat yourself over and over. And one way or the other, you've impacted everybody positively. I really want to commend you and appreciate you very well. Like Mr. Ismail said, that it would be very good for everyone who participated in this cohort to also be part of the advanced class. I also want to agree with him. And also, if it is possible and people have the resources, there is nothing wrong in also trying to also participating in cohort 4. It won't be wrong, at least if you're also doing reinforcement learning, like is it machine learning or AI? Because it will also be good by the time you do it over and over, like you have done it now. A lot of people, maybe this is their first time of exposing themselves to a lot of these statistical terms. By the time they are doing it again, I'm sure that it's going to be a lot of hands-on for them and better learning for them. But I agree that it's been very, 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 very impactful. And then a lot of it's hands-on, it's applied statistics. You are not just teaching us, you didn't teach the theory, but you apply to different fields, health, education, commerce, every aspect. And so it made the class really, really valuable. And I'm sure that if somebody has gone to school to learn, I don't think the knowledge you have gathered in 7 weeks, I'm not sure you get anything better, even if you go for a 1-year program. And I must say that you've really tried. It's been a very good one for every one of us. And the way the class is structured, it's really, really good. For what we should add or improve, okay, for me, I think the only thing I can say is that the 7 weeks, I don't think it's enough for the whole from Excel to SPSS to R to Python. I think the 7 weeks for me, I actually do not think it is really adequate. It may be adequate for some, but I think it's not really adequate, because most time before you look at it, 2 hours is already complete. And sometimes even you have to rush through some of your slides because you want to. So I don't know, but I know it's cost intensive on you also to set up all of this, your time and all of those. So I don't know if maybe subsequent, I'm just also looking at what you included in the advanced classes, the 4 weeks that looking at all the things you set out to do, if it's going to be more so that it is advanced, I'm also thinking, I don't know, you may have your plan for doing that. Maybe you're also trying to look at something that will be affordable for people. But sometimes you may also want to, maybe if it means to add some cost and also maybe add some days to it so that you can even spend more time. And then instead of trying to rush through. So for me, I think the syllabus is okay, all you have in it, but I think that the time, for me, I don't think that the time is adequate. Maybe you want to look at subsequent cohorts and see whether you can go beyond 7 weeks. Sometimes you have even classes for the hard class alone, even some of these courses, data and all of those. Sometimes they do it for, when you look at the number of hours to take people through, it's more. There are some courses that they do, maybe AMREF, and so you see them, they give you, they say they run it for a period of 14 weeks, 10 weeks, and all of those. So maybe you may want to look at and look into that for subsequent cohort. But outside that, I think it's been very, very instructive. I know that the packages also brought some data visualization. I also know that beyond the data science that you have, I think globally also, one of the things that is also selling is data presentation, how you visualize your data. And people have tried to also look into other things that can make people present, like development of dashboards and also data visualization for decision makers, so that sometimes, maybe, I don't know, maybe it can be something you may begin to also think about in the school. Maybe it can be another cohort for people to be outside learning all of the statistical package, how to also present it for people to be able to make decisions. I know that there are people who develop app and all of those. Sometimes when you take some of those apps, people design the dashboard and they connect it to some data that it pulls data. Sometimes they use things like Tableau, they use things like Power BI and all of those to present the data. So maybe you want to also look at the aspect of presenting the data when you develop your machine and your app or whatsoever. And so maybe that's just the part I can say. It may not be something that is immediate, it may be in the future, but I think, but generally, it's been value for money, and it's been very, 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 very useful, highly positive, and then I think it is relevant. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babafemi. I really appreciate those contributions, and all those contributions and suggestions. They are well noted. Thank you so much. So that one will help us to improve our subsequent cohorts. Like for instance, this particular cohort 3, when we started with cohort 1, we included data. But we discovered that after at the end of this class like this, I just put an opinion form out that people should suggest and then put some things in place. Okay, what do you want us to do more to improve and some other things? And I discovered that when we do the analysis of their responses, we discovered that Stata is one of those software that they said they don't really love that Stata, that if we can replace it with something like R, because we started with SPSS, Excel, and Stata. That was our starting point. So we now discovered, okay, people really, they've developed interest in R. So that was when this cohort 2, we have to remove Stata, then we brought in R. So after cohort 2, and then we also asked for people's opinion, then they suggested that, okay, now we have the knowledge of R. Then what of your subsequent cohorts? Can we include Python? That was why we are bringing Python in at this particular cohort. Now, getting suggestion from you two, we're going to look at it with the team member, and then we'll see how we can include that in our subsequent cohort. So thank you so much. I would really appreciate that brilliant suggestion, and then we're going to work on that. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mrs. Oluwatosin.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Ojo. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, ma.
Okay, thank you. I do call you my mentor actually because in fact the way you instruct, the way you teaches, in fact, is just like a gift. And I need to commend you, your patience, the way you ensure everybody understood the topics. I must commend you for that. And well, other people they've already spoken very well, especially I'm looking at it that well we are getting. I'm looking at it that the cost is too small. Sorry to say, because I remember when I wanted to learn Python, I know how much I paid for just Python alone. Even the person that taught me self did not teach me to my own satisfaction, but the way you took the whole class, and I'm actually impressed. And I'm looking at it that if, like what the last speaker said, that if it's possible for you to um for the duration of the training to be more than 7 weeks, it will be very good, so that we will be able to digest enough of all this. If you are going to increase the cost, I think it's worth it. Honestly, it's worth it, because with that money, I'm looking at it that it's just too small for us to learn Excel, all those packages. No, it's small, and I must appreciate you for that, for actually considering us and then putting much with that little amount. Like what you said the other time, like this data, I will appreciate it if you can just include it, maybe for next time. The reason being because when you look at some what's it called? When you look at some vacancies now, they won't even tell you you should know what's it called? They will tell you you must know Stata, Python, or R. They don't always put SPSS there. So I will appreciate it if you can just input that Stata, because Stata, I think Stata, most of the applications are the same. Well, Stata is more pronounced than SPSS. You can actually have everything, so that you can just have a taste of everything, but I will still advise you that you should try to input that Stata. Stata is still very important, and the way Stata goes, fine. You can actually use SPSS for you to do most of the analysis for Stata, but the way the codes are being written, I think it's good for us to learn more as regards that. So I think that is all, and I must appreciate your team members and you especially for the good work you're doing. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Oluwatosin. All the comments are well noted, and then we're going to work on that. We're going to work on that. Then let me give room for one person more. Then we move to tonight's class. Any other person, your suggestion, contribution, what you've learned so far in this class? Tonight's class is just 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Then we run the code and then we look at it together. Okay, Mr. Babafemi, you're raising up your answer.
Okay, sorry, I actually didn't want to. I agree with the last speaker who just spoke now. I actually did not want to talk about the cost because issue of money is very sensitive, and where you don't know the capacity of people that are here, so you don't want to start talking about costs so that people will not be like, what is wrong with this person also, and all of those. But really, just to buttress what the last speaker said, I think the cost is is too cheap considering the value. And initially, when I wanted to join, nobody invited me. I think I saw it. I can't. Is it on LinkedIn or online? I can't remember. I think it just popped up, or maybe the YouTube or Facebook. I can't. I know I just saw it, and I decided to chat with you. Something like that. It was not like somebody invited me. So when you said the amount that if you pay, for me, that possibly wouldn't have joined, because I'll be like, oh, this one will not be for somebody to put this amount. It's not something that will be very impactful. That was what I thought. I said, oh, let me give it a try. And looking at it, I realized that it's like I'm thinking that you just put people together and decided to build capacity for free. That's the way I look at it. I don't know your position or where you are coming from. Maybe you're a pastor. You are doing maybe it's your own way to give back to the society. I don't know. I don't want to comment on that. But really, if you have to put all of this together for that cost, I think it's really, really cheap. And there are a lot of people, when you give that, they may not want to, unless when they come into it and also learn from it. I work in a place, I think last year or 2 years ago, I got some consultants to train some of the staff in my office, colleagues. We paid for the consultant to train them on Stata. I think we also did some training on, I think a few training. I think one of it, Stata was there. And I know what we paid. You understand? The cost of engaging the consultant alone and all of those. So in my being on this call, in my head, I've also looked at it that in 7 weeks, if I bring you to come and train people, I'm sure that you have impacted more, even more than the consultant that we got and all of those. So I agree that it is. I'm not saying you should take it beyond so that people don't, but some persons, you understand what I'm saying. The cost may make them not, until they join, they may look at it that, no, this thing will not be. That's from looking at it from another point. It's really, really, because maybe what you may want to do, maybe attach cost to each of the packages. Excel is this cost, Stata is this cost, R is this cost, Python, you just put all of those. You understand? You can now do it for a period. If it's 7 weeks, you want to do 14 weeks and all of those. I'm sorry if I'm offending people on the call. It's not, if somebody has added value, has given to us, then we may also want to encourage, because it's a school. You also want to grow your school and your resources, and you are putting a lot into this. Maybe just to add that so that you can also, it's just my suggestion, because the money we paid for all that you have given, you can even use that cost alone for Excel alone. In some Excel classes that people learn and where they don't get all of this kind of knowledge. And I know that a lot of people have used Excel for many years, but it did not occur to me that I could use Excel for data analysis. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people like myself who didn't even know. My mind never went there. I know that you can use Excel, Power Query, you can use Excel to create dashboard and so many things, but it never occurred to me. Maybe I didn't think about it, because when you talk about data analysis, the things that will come to your mind, you talk of SPSS, you talk of Stata and all of that. I never, but now it's been very, very, I tried it. I did a few analysis with Excel and I was very happy and all of those. So it's just to also for you to add more value and make more money from it. That is not to say that you can also consider people who may not be able to afford it, but I think that you need to add some cost to what you have done. The value is really, really enormous. So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate that. And then before the last person here, Olajumoke, let me also state this, that I really appreciate all the comments. When we started this quote, I got a lot of bass, a lot of people criticizing me that I'm downgrading myself. The cost is too much. I'm selling myself cheap, because we started with 10,600. And then the reason being that when I attend conferences, seminars, then presentation, I see the way they are misuse the statistics. So I now discovered that it's not that these people, they don't want to do the right thing, but they don't know what to do. And some of them just give their work out to people to do the analysis. And those people that they are even doing the analysis, they don't know, because you can't do a correct analysis without a knowledge of a bit of statistics, but they don't know. So that was what battered the issue of, okay, can I start training people how to make use of statistics? Can I start training them how to make use of these statistical tools, how to do some data analysis, how to even, if at all you are giving your work out for someone to do the analysis for you, you should be able to know what the person is doing. You should be able to know whether that person is cooking something that is wrong, or that the interpretation is right or wrong based on this. So that was what battered those things. And I agree with you, Mr. Babafemi, that even the amount that we are charging, it cannot even take a single course. Yes. But let me say this, that the SPSS that I'm training today, I learned the SPSS as far back as 2008, and I paid 35,000. That was 2008 that I learned SPSS. I paid 30,000. 2019, I learned R, and I paid 50,000 for R, only R only. And then the Python, I learned Python early 2021, and I paid 120,000 for that. So if you are learning anything here, but what I'm just trying to look at is that if by doing this, I can give back to the society, and I can orientate people on how to make use of statistics, I think I am well pleased with that. But I've also discussed with my some of my team that our cohort 4, we are going to expand the period. So let's pick it from the beginner to advanced this time around. And then it's going to be, instead of using 7 weeks, we can use 14 or 15 weeks. It's going to be like 3 or 4 months intensive teaching and training. So by the time we do that, then automatically the cost is going to be increased. And I know some people, I still have them on my contacts now that they message me, they did not register for this because the amount is too small for them. They even said it, that what do you expect us to get with this amount? But I told them that primarily this amount is not the money that is driving me, but what people need to gain. And this is another avenue to give back to the society. And they let us train people on how to make use of this, because if everyone knows how to do this and how to make use of this, it's going to help the society in developing the nation, even your state, even where you are working, by giving them a good suggestion, by giving them the right data interpretation, then implementation will be easy. And then that one will give back to to innovation. And then it will give back to solving problems that we're having all around. But at the end of the day, they did not join. Well, I did not blame them. I even sent them some of the free classes that I've conducted, that they should go over it and see the way I teach, and see the way they can, if they can pick 1 or 2 things from there. When they gone through it and they still have that convinced that the money is too small for the knowledge that they want to acquire. And then we have all other platforms too. We even have someone that joined from US, and that person messaged me that she wanted to learn SPSS in US, and it cost 1,000 USD. 1,000 USD to learn SPSS. The same SPSS that is learning less than 50 USD. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that we're going to look at that. We're going to look at everything. Then we are going to increase the time frame, and then we're still going to increase the cost, so that it's going to watch the time that, okay, if you are starting from the beginning stage, we are going to end it with advanced. So when we are increasing that, so that means that we are taking you from the 0 and then to the advanced, that, okay, be in any complaint, if they're saying anything about the data or any other thing, you'll be able to relate. And then we have a lot of messages that people want us to use Tableau and Power BI. One thing that I normally say is this: it's not that I don't know Tableau, it's not that I don't know Power BI, but I just choose my own lane. That is, okay, I want to focus on how to use statistical tools to undo data analysis, and then to do some other to build models. So now that I've been getting suggestions from people, I think I have to bring because in my team too, I have someone that I have trained. He attended cohort 1. I discovered that, okay, this person can work with me and some other thing that he knows how to use Power BI and Tableau. He even made that suggestion to me, but I told him that let us finish this course. Let us hear from people. If they now what, if we now say that, okay, there is a demand for what, for Tableau, from Power BI, for my SQL and some other things like that, then we are going to include that. And let me also say this before I give room for Madam Olajumoke, that I personally too am still learning. I was telling one of my friends last week that I bought a course. I bought it for 400 USD. The course is simply how to be the robot. So I bought that course, and that course is not even live class. They've done it. They've done that course as far back as 2022. So I just pay to have access to that platform and then to also learn. So as far as I also concerned, I buy courses and I also learn, because learning is continuous. So that someone will not be outdated. So thank you so much for that contribution. So before we move to tonight's class, let's give room for Madam Olajumoke. Please go over, please.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I really, really appreciate it. Yes, like they all suggested that probably will really help me, because I never thought of um, doing this data analysis thing. So, but when I saw the speed, I was encouraged. I just give it a try. I don't know, I'll push it and I'll try and do this. And I really want to appreciate it, because even if it has been more than that, somebody like me, probably I wouldn't have been able to. So, but I would just suggest that for people that would like executive classes, probably you should just package there in an executive way, and maybe the fee can be high, or maybe the classes can be expanded. But for masses that want to have the privilege of the knowledge, the truth is, after having this experience now, as I grow further and I'm being exposed in this, I can, even if I don't have the money, I want to make sure that I try all possible means to get it, because I now know the value, because my eyes have been opened to what I stand to gain. But for somebody that is still trying to, like, oh, could not earn enough, we have a lot of people that are still even struggling. So I want to say a big thank you, because somebody like me, I really appreciate it. So I want to say a big thank you. You are helping the masses, is a way of giving back to the society. So please, I will encourage that if you not see, forget some people, because hands are not equal. So some people that might still not be able to in the nearest future. So it's not as if the price will be so low, but at least it will give access to many people to be able to have access to this information. And I know that as we are doing that, there are a lot of things that money cannot buy, sincerely. And that is part of the thing that I appreciated in this class. I followed for just 2 weeks before I went for a medical surgery. But sincerely, I really appreciate everything. And going back to all the recordings and everything later, the truth is, I'm going to have my time, even after this cohort, to sit down with everything. It's like I'm going to start the class all over. But that access alone is a big one for me. And I want to say a big thank you for giving us this access. Because if I were to pay 200K, 100K, in fact, I wouldn't make any attempt. But giving us this access to this information will make for other people too that want to join, you'll be able to join. So I really want to appreciate and thank you for your effort. It's a give back to the society for me. Even when I look at it, I know that no, this is more than what we paid for. But yet, somebody like me, I'm appreciating you very much, sir, for this opportunity. Thank you so much, sir. Hello, thank you, sir. I'm done, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's make share my screen so that we can start. Can you all see my screen, please? Okay, good. So we are picking up from where we stopped yesterday. And then if you look at what we have in our syllabus, let me quickly see if I have the syllabus here. Where is the syllabus? Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen? So in this syllabus for today, we just need descriptive statistics, which we've talked about yesterday too. We've done some of this yesterday. Descriptive statistics, then a summary table, correlation analysis, then visualization, distribution that we're going to histogram, box plot. Then the only thing that we're going to be adding for tonight's class is the violin plot. A violin plot is also part, then peer plot and heat map. We've talked about the heat map yesterday, but I'm still going to show us the heat map. And then when we're talking about the measure of central tendency, that is, it's also called the measure of location. So in that, we normally check what we call the mean, median, and then the mode. How do you check that in Python? How do you use Python to do the analysis of that? And that is part of what we call the descriptive statistics. And then let me say this expressly, that in descriptive statistics, it's either we have two aspects of descriptive statistics. So if you want to describe your data, number one is the measure of location or measure of central tendency, that we're going to be looking at the mean, median, then the mode. The other one is what we call the measure of dispersion. How far apart are other observation or other data from the center? The center here is the mean. The center here is the mean. So how far apart are other variable, other data set from the center? So there are ways in which we normally check that. We have variance, we have the standard deviation, we have the kurtosis, we have the coefficient of variation, and some other parts like that. So that is under the what we call the explorative data analysis. Then another one is what we call the introduction to statistical analysis in Python. Although all other the subsequent statistical analysis that we've looked into, we also look at all those things. The time we got to SPSS, we also look at that too. And then when we're talking about the R2, we also look at that. So we just need to also look at that in Python. How do we choose the all those statistical tests in Python? How do we carry out that import in Python? So it is not something that is something that is hard. It is not hard. It is not strange. So it is something that we have been doing over time. But just that we want to be using a different software to carry out that, because who knows, they may be asking you to be doing that using Python. They may say it expressly that, okay, this particular analysis that you want us to do for us, you are going to be using Python. That one makes me, that one reminds me of a particular grant that they got in the department in a public health of recent, and they stated there categorically that they should use R for all the analysis. They should use R. So they have to sort out for those that knows how to use R very well, and which are also part of them. So It is very, very important to have the knowledge of all this statistical software, because who knows, tomorrow opportunity can come and they will state it there that this is the particular software we want you to use. So those are the things that we are going to be doing tonight. And then the same data that we used yesterday, we're still going to be using that tonight. So remember that from yesterday, we've loaded our data set in, and by now we should be able to know how to use how to read your data, at least for basis for Excel, how to you read your data from Excel to your Python. So how to use how to read your data from Excel to Python. Now, the same data set we are moving to tonight's class. We are moving to tonight's class. Okay, now, if you want to carry out anything relating to test of hypothesis, normality test, or any form of test that relates to statistics in Python, we normally use what we call the SciencePy. So remember, in Python, py is referring to Python, and then the short form of science is what is the SCI. So from SciencePy, import stat. Stat here, it means statistics. It's just the short form of what? Of statistics. And I remember I told us yesterday that if you import anything and then you give that that particular package name, subsequent analysis, you will be using that package, like the pandas, import pandas as PD. In our reading data we use the PD instead of using writing pandas. Like for instance now, like the numerical Python, that is import numpy as NP, import numpy as what? As NP. So we import that as NP, and then in our subsequent analysis that we needed to use the numpy, we put it to be NP. So the same thing here. Now, there's another one called the scikit-learn. We normally call it scikit-learn. So in scikit-learn, that is where we normally import what we call the linear regression. In scikit-learn, we normally import linear regression. Then also in scikit-learn, there are other things that we normally import. We normally import the testing data, the training data. We normally import all these basic machine learning model. They are all inside the scikit-learn. So scikit-learn does linear model. That is, in scikit-learn, there is a package called the linear model. And then when we're talking about the linear model, the linear regression is also part of the linear model. So from that, we import what we call the linear regression. So from the scikit-learn, does learning model imports linear regression. So by the time you do that, we're going to run this. So by the time you run this now, so that means that you have all the package that you need for this particular analysis, be it you want to test or you want to develop model. And please note that there is a difference between you testing a data, testing a particular, conducting a particular test on a data set and developing model. They are two things entirely. So please take note of that. Now, we may want to describe our data. Remember yesterday I told us that we don't need to cram anything at all. You don't need to cram code. Once you have assigned, you've designed that, okay, your DF is the one carrying your data set. That is, your DF is now what is not carrying your data set. So by the time you press that DF, you press dot. Once you press dot, then you press tab. Immediately you press that tab, you can see everything that you can carry out on that particular on that particular describe here. Once you click on that describe, and then you put this open and close parenthesis brackets, and then once you run it, it's going to give you the description of your data set in terms of what the number of data set that you have, the mean for the numeric. That's one thing about the Python. The Python we only pick those ones that are numeric, those ones that are number. So it's only going to pick those ones that are what that are number. So we have the mean, the standard deviation, the minimum, the first quarter, which is 25 percentile, the 50 percentile, which is the second quartile, which is the median, the 75 percentile, which is the third quartile. Then we have the maximum. So it's going to give us, it's just describe that your data set. So you may want to carry out all other things too. You may want to carry out all other things too on that, but still yet we can use describe. So furthermore, if you look at this, the second line of codes that I'm having here, I want to create a table. That is, I want to have a gender. Remember, in the gender, we have male and female. So we want to create a table to show the gender based on if you're a female, we have the test score for that female, we have the science score, we have the English score, and some other scores like that. So we can create a table in Python. Python give room for you to create a table. So how do we do that? Now, print this that you are seeing here is just like an heading. That is, I want my table to carry the heading summary table by gender. So that one is just the normal printing. Remember, I put them in the inverted commas just to make it to be like a string, just to make it to be a string. Then I can have the summary of the gender. Remember, I started from let me open another one. Let's say, for instance, now if I press the DF, you don't need to cram anything, just press dot and you press tab. Now, you remember that under the DF, which is our entire data set, the gender is like a subgroup, that is like a column. In what? In that. It's like a what? It's like a column in that. So once you press this and you just press G R, so it's asking, this is the subgroup. Then the subgroup, which of the subgroup that you want to work with? Is it the gender? Is there other variables that are under this data set? Then you can specify, which we've done here, to be what? To be gender. To be gender. Now, if you look at this now, from what we've learned yesterday, or from our subsequent class, the previous classes that we've had, anytime you are using the square bracket is just for the list. Remember, the square bracket is for the list. But immediately you have two square brackets, you are telling Python that all the variables that you have there, see it as the what? As the 2D. Remember, we mentioned something like 1D, we mentioned something like 2D. 1D is like a vector of just single row that we can convert to a column. But when you now have the double square brackets, it is now a matrix, that is, which is in form of row and column. And then if you look at all these data set that we have here, we have them in form of row and column. That is, you are telling Python that I want this score, and by the time you arrange this table, should be in form of row and column. That is why we are putting what? We are putting the what? We are putting what's it called? We are putting the double square brackets. Now, I can also find the mean. Remember, the mean is just dot mean. When you put dot here simply means that I want to carry out some analysis. What other things that can I still do with this particular variables that I have here? So another thing I want to do with them is the mean. So let me run this and let's see how it's going to look like. If you look at this now, we have the mean, we have the gender. The gender here is the male and female. Under the male and female, we have the math score. The mean of the math. Remember, this is the mean that we want to find, because dot mean. Now, if you want to find the standard deviation, just dot std. Now, the mean the mean for the mathematics score for the female is this. For the science score is this. For the English score is this. From the study hour is this. And then for the male is also this. Now, let me see something here. Okay, yes, that's the table. So I've printed the table. So another thing that I may want to check here is that, let me check the correlation. Let me check the correlation among all these continuous variables. Remember, I told us that before you can find a correlation, we normally find correlation between two continuous variables. That is, the two variables that you want to check whether they are correlated must be continuous, must be number. We don't use correlation for categorical variable. We only use chi-square for categorical variable. So please take note of that. For checking correlation, it means that your variable must be what? Must be a continuous variable. So by the time I run this now, I'm going to see the correlation. Remember, this is for all this one that we're having here are the variables that we have. The student ID, the age, the study hour, and some other things like that. Now, let me say this expressly that this is now where the knowledge of your little statistics or your knowledge of your data analysis or data science will come in. If you give this particular data set for someone who is not statistically oriented or someone with the low knowledge of statistics, that person will be interpreting the student ID. And the student ID has nothing to do with this analysis. So if you are bringing this one out now, student ID should not be part of it, because student ID, they are just like a serial number. They are dummy variables that we just assign. So student ID should be out of this. So we are going to be looking at the age. What is the correlation between the age and then the study, so the hour of the study? What is the value here? Is it positively correlated or negative correlation? Is it strongly correlation or weak correlation? The same thing go for the attendant and some other ones like that. So this is now where you are going to be looking at it, then be bringing out those ones that are meaningful, those value that are useful, because you can't be presenting this particular output and you'll be telling them that there is a correlation between student ID and English test. Wow, how does it correlate? Someone matric number, is there anything, is it has anything relating to the score? No. So those are the one that you're going to be removing, and then be bringing those variables that are very, very important, and then you are going to be doing the interpretation. So the same thing that we did yesterday, we may want to visualize it. That is, I want to know the histogram. I want to check the histogram for the test average score, and then remember variable. We use histogram on continuous variable. So if it is categorical variable, we use bar chart or pie chart. If it is categorical variable, you want to represent it graphically, we use pie chart or bar chart. But if it is continuous variable, we normally use histogram. So by the time I run this now, I'm going to add the histogram, and we've explained this yesterday. This one is just color. Beam here means how wide you want all this bar to be. That is what we call the beams here. And then we have the sky blue is just the color. You may choose to use red, you may choose to use blue, and use some other ones like that. And then the alpha is equal to 0.7 here. I've explained this yesterday. It's telling us how bold you want all this to look like. If you reduce your alpha or you increase this alpha to 0.8 or 0.9, and I run this again, you will see that the thing will be coming out bold compared to when you have your alpha to be equals to 0.4, and then let me run the 0.4. You will see how fainter it is. So this is the essence of the, then the time affect explained this yesterday just to give you the title. Is a package in Python that we normally use for visualization. So automatically, we normally state it, import matplotlib as PLT. So we are going to be using subsequent one. We are going to be using PLT instead of using the matplotlib. Now we can also look at the box plot. We may want to check the box plot. So the box plot between the gender and then the score. We also do this yesterday, but I think yesterday we use science score, something like that. So we can also use a box plot, and the box plot tells us, give us 5 summarization. There's what we call 5 summarization in statistics. You will normally use box plot there. This one is it's going to give you the maximum. This is the maximum. This is the first quartile. Sorry, the third quartile. We have the second quartile. We have the second quartile, then we have the minimum. So box plus is going to give us that. Then there is another plot that I want us to also look at it. It is what we call the violin plot. It's what we call the violin plot. So in violin plot combine both the box plot and then the density plot. Both the box plot and then the density plot. So by the time we run this now, you will see how violin plot will look like. Now, what is the interpretation of this? Remember, we interpreted box plots yesterday, but now let's look at this violin plot. Now, if you look at this violin, can you see this violin plot, please? Anybody?
Yes, sir, we can see it, sir.
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good. Now, if you look at this violin plot, you will notice that there is like we have like a white dot inside. Can you see that white dot? Look at this very well. That white dot is what we call the second quartile. If you look at this line that we are having, it's more or less like you are having box plots. So what you are having here is the box plot. So the upper here is what we call the maximum, which is if you look at the maximum for male here, the maximum for male here is above 90, and then the same thing goes for the female. If you look at this, so this is the maximum. Then we have the minimum to be here. Sorry, we have the first quartile to be here, and then the white dot that you are seeing here is the second quartile. The second quartile here is around, let's say, above 60, but I don't think it's going to what's it called? It's gotten we have it to up to 70. But if you look at for the male here, then if you look at it too, we have it up to like 70. Now, another thing that we're going to be looking at is what we call the density plot. The density plot here is like this shape that we're having here. If you look at this shape, we have a lot of people here. A lot of score is between, if you look at this shape, is between 60 and let's say something relating to like above 70, let's say 72. If you look at like this plot, I don't know whether you see what the plot I'm talking about here, this symbol here. Then if you look at for the male, this density plot, there's a shootout here. Look at this now. This one is closing to like 80. If you look at it, so in violin plot combine both the box plot and then the density plot. So the density plot and the box plot is the combination of the violin plot is the combination of the density plot and then the box plot. Now we can also do what we call a pair plot and then the heat map. Yesterday I showed us how to do a heat map, and then we normally use the heat map when you want to show a correlation between several continuous variables. You want to see how correlated they are, and then we normally also use the heat map when we are talking about when we're looking at what we call the multicollinearity. That is, if you have two variables in a single model and that two variables, they are highly correlated, they are trying to explain the same thing. It's normally affect our result. It normally affects the output of the model. It affects the robustness, the predictive power of that model. So we normally use heat map to check for the multicollinearity. So if I run this now, this one that I'm having here is still running. So if you now we have the results. Now, if you look at this now, at the what's it called? The pair plot. If you look at the pair plot here, at the diagonal, you will see something relating to like a histogram at the diagonal. So that one is just telling us to represent the correlation between the maths score and the math score. That is what we're having here. But other ones are those other variables. Now, from this plot, now at the you should be able to look at the plot and say whether there is a relationship between two variables, whether there is a relationship between two variables, and should be able to tell us what type of relationship. You may not be totally correct about the terms of the number. That is, if the correlation here is 0 point something or the correlation here is 0.9, but you can tell us the relationship by looking at the plot. Now, looking at this plot now, anytime if you look at this plot, we can say this particular one here, the relationship between the mathematical score and then the science score. If you look at it here, we can't really say it's follow a particular pattern because the results look like the results scattered about. So we can't say it's follow a particular pattern. So we can say, and we can't even say it is 0. So, but sometimes we can say the relationship between them does not follow a particular pattern, whether there is positive relationship or negative relationship. But if you also look at this for the relationship between the mathematical score and the English score too. Well, if you draw a particular line here, we can say there is a, let's say there is a moderate positive relationship, but not that we are not that too sure because of all those one here that scatter out. But if you look at the relationship between the mathematical score and then the average score, you will see that this one they are clustering together. And then if you look at the way those dotted line, those data are going, they are like a positive. If you look at it, if you draw a straight line here, you will see that we have more data set that falls in between the straight line. So that means that the relationship between here is positive relationship. It may not be a strong relationship, but the relationship that occur between what is a possible between. If you also look at the relationship between the science score and then the English score, you see that that relationship is also positive. So that is how we normally look at the scatter plot. By the time you are looking at it, you should be able to tell us, oh, this particular plot is showing a relationship. The relationship that occur between these two variables is a positive or negative. So, but the heat map will give you the exact score. So that is why I'm putting both the scatter plot here, which is called the pair plot, and then the heat map. Remember yesterday, we only showed the heat map, we didn't show the scatter plot. Now, if you look at those variables that we have, that we've selected here, mathematics score, let's look at the mathematics score. Mathematics score and where is the science score? This is the science score. If you look at the relationship between them, mathematics score, yes, this is mathematics score, and this is science score. If you look at the relationship, although the relationship is positive, but it's very, very weak, very, very weak. So it's tending towards 0. But that is why I mentioned that we were looking at the graph, we can't say there is no correlation. Because if you say there is no correlation, it means that the correlation coefficient between them is 0. But the correlation is very, very low. And then me and looking at this scatter plot, we can't really say that there is a particular relationship between them because the relationship here is scatter. The data here, they are just scatter out. So, but if you look at the relationship between the science score and the average score, and then we have the science score, the average score, and then the science score, the average score here, and then the science score. If you look at this relationship here, is look at the science score, what they have positive relationship. So if you look at your heat map, you will see that it is the same thing. We can relate to that. So that is the graphical representative. Now let's quickly look at the measure of central tendency, which is also called the measure of location. We may want to check the mean for the average score. If you don't want to use describe, you remember the other time when you do df.describe, it's going to give you the summary of that. But if you don't want to use that, you can also do the average. Remember, df, if you put df, then you put this the square bracket. You want to call out a particular variable from the data core, from the data called df, then dot. The same to note here in terms of the mode, which is very, very important, is that I put 0 here. You know, in mode, we can have some data that are let's say from some variable that appear 2 times. Some data appear 2 times, some appear 3 times, some appear 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, like that. Now, and then the mode is the one that appear most. In Python is going to list them according, followed by the sake. You need a particular mode for that particular data set. You need a mode for that particular data. You have to put 0. Remember, when we are doing the indexing and slicing, if you put 0 for the index, it simply means that you are picking the first observation in your data set. Now, that is what you are telling Python. Among my data set, after you've structured them in terms of their mode, pick the first one for me, which is 0 index. So the first one, Python I think the first one to pick here. If you don't put that 0 here, it will throw error, because Python will be asking, which one do you want me to do? We have several modes there. So please take note of that. Then, if you are printing and I'm putting SF, 2 SF here simply means that I want it in 2 decimal fraction. That's just the function. That is, at the end of the day, give me in 2 decimal. If you change this one to be 3, you may have 3 decimal. If you put 0, that means that you don't want it to be in any decimal. So by the time I run this now, we're going to have the mean to be equals to 69.26 for this one. Then we have the median, then we have the mode. If I reduce this to be equals to, let me say I want to put this one to be equals to 3. If I put 3 here and I run this, you will see that it has increased the decimal. So I now have it in 3 decimal. So the essence of we putting this here is for the decimal places. And I've explained this for us that in string, if you want to give Python function that in this string, there is a function that I want you to see as a function, not as a string, because I have defined it up that the mean underscore var should give me the mean. So when I want my Python to see it as a function, but not as a string, you have to put f before the inverted comma. So that is why we are putting this function there. Now, the other one is the measure of dispersion, which I also call the measure of location. To find the variance, just dot var. To find the standard deviation is just dot std in Python. So by the time I run this now, I'm going to have this. Now, testing of the hypothesis. Remember, by now you should be able to look at your data set and know what type of test you want to carry out on this data, depending on the objective. Remember, I've talked about when we are talking about the one sample t-test, when we're talking about dependent t-test, when we're talking about the independent two sample t-test, when we're talking about the analysis of variance, which is called the f-test, when we're talking about the correlation test, when we're talking about the chi-square test. I've explained in this class the process of selecting those tests. When should I use t-test? When should I use f-test? When should I use chi-square test? You don't just pick any test and use it. You must know the reason behind of using that particular test. Now, if you want to use a t-test in this, let's say you want to use a t-test. Number one is that you are considering, let's say for instance, you are considering your sample size to be small, or the population variance is unknown, or if you want to compare between 2 groups, there is what we call independent t-test, and then you may want to check the equality of variance, or you want them to be equal variance. So those are the things that we normally carry out in tests, which we've explained this in our previous classes. In our when we are talking about the when we are under the SPSS, we've talked about this. Under the R2, we also talked about this. So here we want to use gender. Gender is a group which you have is either male or female, and then we want to check their test score, average score, rather average score. That is your average score. Does it depend on the gender or not? That is, someone that is male has the tendency to have the higher average score compared to someone which is the person that is female. So that is what we call we normally use what we call independent sample T test. Now, if you look at this, my print here, equal variance is equals to false. Equal variance is equals to false. Equal variance is equals to false here is that assume on equal variance. Remember, I told us that in carrying out all these things, we have equal variance and then we have unequal variance. So assume what? Equal variance. So if you put assume a equal variance is equals to true, you are telling Python that assume equal variance. But if you put equal variance is equals to false, you are telling Python that assume unequal variance, which is very, very important. So by the time you want to test this, if you put, remember that we've imported this particular test to be start. Let me go back up so that we can see. Remember, we've imported it from the scikit-learning.linear model import. From the SciPy import start. Start here. We normally use them when you are when you want to test when you want to carry out a test. By the time we run this, let's run it. This one is going to give us this. We have the test statistic and then we have the p-value. So now with this, with the knowledge that we've gained in this class, our p-value here is equal to 0.1153. What will be the interpretation? Anybody, please? What will be the interpretation? Can you see my screen? Can you see hear my voice? Are we still together, please?
Yes, we can hear you. We are hearing you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So what will be the interpretation of this?
So the p-value is greater than alpha 0.05. So it means that there is no significant difference between the average score of the male and then when compared to the average score of the female.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Kemi, please go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, so that was what I was about to say. So we failed to reject the null hypothesis, which means that there's no significant difference between male, the test scores between male and female. Thank you, sir.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Thank you. So let's move on, please. Now, okay, go ahead, please. Someone raising up hand. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. DBC.
So we say since the p-value is greater than 1, so we say an equal variance is assumed, and we fail to reject the null hypothesis.
Okay, and then what will be our conclusion?
We fail to reject the null hypothesis.
Okay, so when we fail to reject the null hypothesis, then our conclusion will be there is what? There's no significant difference between the average score, you can say across the gender or between male and then the female. Now, let's look at the chi-square. Remember, chi-square deals with what? Categorical. That is, you want to find the association between two categorical variables. Here, we want to find between the gender and then the grade category. Remember, our grade category, we have the F, D, C, B, and A, which is the same thing as anybody scoring from zero. Anybody saw zero, yeah, just F and some other things like that. So, but before that, I also try to print the contingency table to see. If you look at this contingency table here, or categorical table here, if you look at the F here, is those ones that fail. We have female to be 4, the male is 1. Those ones that got D, we have 6 male, 6 female, 9 male. Those ones with C, 16 and 15. Those ones with bid grade, we have 14 and 22, and those ones with A, we have 4 and 9. Then we have our chi-square value here. Anybody, please, can you interpret this chi-square value for us? Interpretation, please. Interpretation for this, anyone? Go ahead, please.
So since our p-value is greater than 0.05, so we say there's no association between gender and the grade category.
Okay, thank you so much.
So there's no statistical difference in between. So it's not statistically significant, and so there's no association between gender and grade category.
Okay, good. So what that one is really telling us in the real life situation is that irrespective of your gender, gender does not determine the type of grade that you're going to have. So there's no association between two of them. There's no association between two of them. So you can also apply that in your own field. You may want to check, is there any association between gender and someone being tested positive to HIV or a particular disease? Then from there you can establish, oh, maybe there is association between gender and the HIV status. Maybe male are more prone to have HIV compared to female, and some other things like that. So that is for that. Now we want to move a step higher by looking at the correlation and regression. Correlation and regression. So let me run this. This one is I just want to check the correlation between the value. To get the value, is there's a Pearson correlation between the hour of study and then the average score. But we've shown this already from our heat map. But what I want us to take home tonight, which is very, very important, is this regression part. Because the way we assign value, the way we assign our dependent and independent variable in Python is different from R. Now, first thing is that you have to define your variables. And then in Python, anytime you are seeing X here in our normal understanding is the independent variable. That is, those are input that can predict the output. But in Python, and even in data science, we call it futures. That is, what are the from our basis of the understanding of statistics, or from our data from the cycle learning dots, this important linear regression. So by the time I run the model.fit, remember can you hear me now? Can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, please, where did I stop? Because I don't know. I don't know that the network has threw me out. Where did I stop? So I can pick it up from there again. Anybody, please?
You are trying to explain the independent variable and the dependent variable. That in R, the independent variable used to be X. So that's what you're trying to explain.
Okay. I've gone too far. Okay. So now in Python, the independent variable is what we call the futures. And then to define that in Python, we normally use double square brackets, which we call the 2D. And then 2D simply means the row and the column, which is in form of matrix. Whether your independent variable is just 1 or 2. So Python will still treat it as that. And then the dependent variable is our Y, which we normally use just a single square bracket. So remember that from when we started, we imported the from the cycle learning, we import the linear regression. So the model is the linear regression that we want to use. Then we can type model dot. When you press tab, then you can fix the model, the x comma y, x comma y. So by the time you do that, and then we'll run this, it's going to, oh sorry, let me go for this first. It's going to give us this, which we have the intercept to be 66.15, and then the slope to be equals to 0.30, which is the slope for this particular linear regression. Then we may want to visualize this by plotting it on the map, which I also on graph, which I also have here. Which I also have here. So we've developed 1.5 plus 0.3. We may want to predict the average score based on the study hour. That is, let me run this. If I run this now, it's asking me enter the number of hours of study. That is, they want to develop a model in form of like an app that can suggest to them that see, for those people coming to this particular program, form of app that is enter the number of study hour. But at the back end, all those formula, all those code, they are at the back end. Let's say, for instance, now I say, okay, I want to study for 24 hours. So like 24 hours, what would be my what's my score is 5.4 calculator and see. I'm back, sorry, please. Let me share the screen back. Okay, so once we run this, you can give your what's it called, your model, the number of study hour, and it's going to predict average score of 15 hours. So it's going to give us this. So with this now, at least you've developed let's say a model that people can be using in that particular field. So you can also, this is the foundation for all these machines that we normally use to check our blood pressure, to check our weight, to check this, to check that, and some other things like that. So this is just the basis, that is the background that is behind all those apps that we are even using. So thank you so much. This is where we are going to call it a night. And this is the last day for our data analysis camp cohort 3. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your cooperation. And then the assignment, which will be the second one for this, is going to, during the week, I'm going to arrange those questions. That one is going to cover Python and R. That one is going to cover Python and R. And then also, we also need your feedback. I'm going to send the email to the group so that you can just help us, just when you are less busy, just type what you've gained in this class and then any other improvement so that we can document that. So we normally use that for the proper documentation, which we normally appreciate. So floor to everyone. Any question for me? Any addition? Any question? Any question, please?
So thank you very much. So,
Mr. Wafemi, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay, so thanks for the model. When you were doing the regression analysis, you came up with some statistics, the slope and all of those. The interpretation, is it still the same, the way we interpreted the other regression interpretation?
Yes,
where
it's
we
the
looked
same.
at the coefficient and
It's the same. It's the same interpretation. The only difference is that we are using another software. It's the same. The same results when you are using SPSS, the way you interpret it. The same thing when you are using R, the way you interpret it. When you are using XZ, the same thing. The only difference is that we are using different software.
okay, so that means we are using the explanation of the
unit increase.
The unit increase, exactly, where you were talking about the beta, okay, coefficient,
yes,
and also the p-value, okay.
Yes,
thank you.
The same thing.
So, okay.
Thank you.
So the other part, thank you very much. So maybe I forgot to also say something. Maybe for subsequent, I don't know whether that was done. Maybe you may want to also assess the knowledge gain. Maybe for you can start with a pre-test to know what knowledge we have, and maybe at the end of, so you can also see how much impact you have made. So maybe you also want to add that so that you assess so that you can also know the level of, because everybody will not be on the same level. So you want to assess the different knowledge of all your students before you even start, if you feel that that is
yes, thank you so much for that. And if we normally do that, and we're still going to do it for this cohort. If you notice the form that we sent out for the registration, we asked for their knowledge on those software. So the second form that we're going to be sending out now is going to be the form for how do you want your name to be written on the certificate, so that we're not going to be putting Mr. instead of Doctor, so that, and then the knowledge now, the knowledge that you've gained, you are, by the time you want to enroll, your knowledge about the SPSS is at the beginner, or you don't even have any knowledge. What about now? So by the time you feed those forms, we normally do the back-end analysis and see what impact that we've made. So we normally do that, and then we are still going to improve that. Another thing is that every class before, we normally give a test, but we discovered that majority of people don't even do it. They don't even do it. So that's why we just come to the conclusion that let us give them what they will put their hands on. They will solve it, and then they will give us the results. So for the pre-test and post-test analysis, we normally do that. Thank you so much for that.
Okay. And lastly, I also wanted to look into, there was a lady, a woman who spoke before we started the class. I think he made a valid point. And she was talking about maybe you may also want to have executive category and other, you understand, as much as you also want to help and impact people, there's also a need for you to also help and impact yourself. So you may also want to have that. Maybe not now, maybe you can think of it in the future. You can, because in everything you do, you also want to look at the business model, business part of it, and all of those. It's a lot of knowledge, and it's also important that you also go. The business school, Lagos Business School, and some of those this thing that you see today, many of them, even when you talk about Elon Musk and others, they started small, and of course, you never can say where you will go or get to, especially that you have people coming from other countries participating in your, and before you know it, referral like that, it will go around the world. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the class, and I wish you all the best.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Mrs. Comfort, after that, Dr. Kemi will take over. Mrs. Comfort.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I want to say thank you for the knowledge you have impacted so much on us. We really appreciate your effort. My question is that actually I have not participated for some time since after the week 3, and I've been on official engagements that did not allow me to do so. So now, is there room for me to watch the other videos and do my assignments and still catch up, or what is the decision on that? Then secondly, I also want to add to what Baba Femi and the last woman that speak before your class. While they were talking, I have this in mind. I know you are in a setting of school. I was a student which just graduate, not quite long in the same area. So I know there are a lot of students that want to subscribe. So when you now add the package and add the amount, the fee, it might also affect those students. Notwithstanding, Mr. Babafemi said you can have an executive class, and if you can create another platform for students whereby they can subscribe with the little amounts they have, and the executive class can go with a higher amount. At the same time, I also wish if you can split the payment of the courses. Some want to just do 2 courses, maybe Excel and SPSS, and that's all they need. They might pay for each and then get their certificate. I don't know. This is a suggestion, if it's okay with you, sir. Thank you, and I appreciate everything. The Lord bless us all.
Thank you so much, Ma. I really appreciate that brilliant idea and contributions. Concerning the recording, we are going to have access to that record at least for a year. You can go over it over and over for a year. So at least our subscription to the Google space and then the YouTube space is going to cover for a year. So you can go over it for a year. And then after that, you do your assignment and send it to us. Remember,
thank you so much,
we
sir.
will not release the certificate until we have those assignments and marked,
yes,
and see that you are now capable of doing all those things. So please, you can go over those videos, do the assignment, and send it to us. Please.
Thanks for that privilege. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Dr. Kemi, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everybody. I want to also lend credence to what everybody has said. Thank you very much. I had met you personally before to tell you my own challenges, and actually, I must say that for this class, I've learned quite a lot. Although there were sometimes I couldn't make class for one reason or the other, but when I was looking through the videos, yes, it really did make sense, and I must say that I'm quite much better now at all this. Although I will still go through the videos again, at least to be able to learn more and all. My quick question is this: this evening's class, just before you went off, and you were talking about the X and Y axis. I think I just want a clarification. You were saying something about the x-axis, what we put on the x-axis and what we put on the y-axis in Python is different. You didn't quite say that again when you came back on air. So I just wanted a clarification on that. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Let me quickly do a sharing of my screen so we can quickly look at that. Okay, this is what I'm saying. In Python, if you want to define your independent variable that we also know as the explanatory variable, we normally use 2 square brackets, the variable that you want it to act as independent variable. The reason being that anytime you are using this double square bracket, Python will see it as the 2D. And when I'm talking about the 2D, I'm talking about row and column. That is seeing it in form of a matrix. So which is the way they will normally structure our data, unlike the R that we just press LM, we open the bracket, then the dependent variable will come, then we put that symbol sim, and then we put the independent variable. Python is different. You have to tell Python, this is the particular variable that I want it to be my independent variable. This is the particular variable I want it to be my dependent variable. So to differentiate both is that we use double square bracket for independent variable, and then we use a single bracket for dependent variable. Then we can now fit the model. Am I clear with that, please, Doctor?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. So please, any other question, suggestion? Okay. In the absence of none, so thank you so much for joining. It's really a wonderful journey since day one, and today is the last day of the class. So I appreciate everyone, our friend from Kenya, our friend from Ghana, from Liberia, from US, from Canada, from Australia, and our own here in Nigeria. I really appreciate the contribution. So we're going to send out the form to fill for the feedback, and then the details as you want it to be on your certificate. If you're a doctor, put doctor there. If you're a professor, if you're an engineer, just put it there the way you want it to be on the certificate. And then I'm going to also send the assignment for both the R and Python, which is going to be the second one for this class. So please try as much as possible to go over those video again. What you've learned in these 7 weeks, it can take like 3 or 4 months for you to digest everything. So please, if you are writing your code, if you are seeing error, don't feel bad. It's part of the way you learn. So please, and then if you have any difficulty, maybe you are carrying out a project or you are carrying out an analysis and you are hooked, you are free to reach out to me, and then we can both look at it together and see the way forward. So thank you so much for your contribution. Our cohort 4 is coming February 2024. I'm still going to share the flyer. Then you can help us tell people what you've gained in this class, and then you can also recommend us for that. And then we also train group. If you have group of people, we train companies and some other organization like that. So maybe peradventure you have an opportunity, maybe in your company, you can suggest our team and our school to them. So you can come on board and come and train them. Note that the aim of this is just to make sure that we reach out the entire part of the world with the knowledge of statistics and then the real application of data science. So thank you so much for coming. I wish you all success in your endeavor, and then we look forward to partner in the nearest future. Do have a wonderful night's rest. Good night.
Good night to